Miranda Darrow here, talking to you again about writing fiction. Just for fun, I'm tackling a different fiction genre or subgenre every month. And this month, in the midst of the holidays, while many people are surrounded by family, we're talking about domestic suspense. Ooh, what danger lurks in the suburbs? Last week's video featured common themes, tropes, and writing tips for domestic suspense. And this week's video is my list of recommended reading in the genre. If you're an author searching for comp titles, this might help. And if you're a reader, there's sure to be some new titles for your to-be-read TBR list. So let's get to it. This was a tough list for me to compile because this is one of my favorite genres to read, and I have an absolute ton of titles on my Goodreads annual report for the last 3 years. So rather than tackling all of the titles, I'm going to start with some of the rather prolific and popular authors that are out of reads for me whenever they have a new release. Some of these authors write books that could be thrillers or suspenses other than domestic suspense, and I'll read those too. So I've tried to feature the ones in this recommendation list that clearly focus on spooky times in the suburbs and families with secrets. If you would have asked me 20 years ago if I'd love a trip to the Scottish Highlands, I would have said yes without hesitation. If you'd invite me there now, I'd still go, but I'd be on high alert for murder if we ended up in a remote country estate, as that's the setting for Alice Feeney's Rock, Paper, Scissors, a story featuring a couple celebrating their wedding anniversary at a spooky old mansion. Feeney loves creepy remote houses, as Daisy Darker, I also love that, also took place in a house where a family gathered at a mansion on an island for the matriarch's birthday, and a whole bunch of murdering. Speaking of murdering at a fancy estate on an island, the next recommendation for authors is Lucy Foley, whose The Guest List features a host of POV characters, different POV characters, all giving their take on a destination wedding that turned ugly. Foley isn't always out in the sticks, as she served up creepy urban apartment building in the Paris apartment. Speaking of lush settings that add to the suspense mood, no list of domestic suspense would be complete without mentioning Ruth Ware. My favorite is still In a Dark, Dark Wood, with the bachelorette party at a remote cabin gone wrong. But I love so many of hers. Ware's use of setting is simply stupendous. Whether it's a claustrophobia-inducing luxury cabin in a ship on Girl in Cabin 10, or a remote chalet for a work retreat in One by One, or a spying on you smart house in the remote part of the Scottish Highlands in Turn of the Key, all of her settings are characters who have established the mood and allow the walls to close in on our protagonists and on us readers along with them. I've nicknamed Sherry Lapina the queen of the spooky suburbs, as she delivers neighborhood secrets in her The End of Her, What Have You Done, The Couple Next Door, and Not a Happy Family. My favorite of Lapina's is The End of Her, which features an exhausted new mom of young twins who isn't sure if she can trust her perception, and neither are we. But something is definitely amiss in this cul-de-sac. Another soapy suburban title is The Block Party by Jamie Day. Frida McFadden has a bunch of domestic suspense titles, including The Teacher and The Locked Door, about the family of a serial killer trying to get on with their lives. But the most recent title of McFadden's that I read was The Widow's Husband's Secret Lie, which is a parody novella that skewered the genre and its tropes, just like the Netflix series starring Kristen Bell, The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window. If you read in this genre and want to see a funny take on the tropes, check those both out. They're pretty hilarious. And next up on my list of recommendations is the author Geneva Rose, whose path to publication included being an indie author sensation with her first book, The Perfect Marriage, about a lawyer who must defend her husband when he's accused of murdering his mistress. I also liked her other books, including You Shouldn't Have Come Here, which features a cautionary tale for anyone looking to stay at somebody else's house. There's a reason I've never done Airbnb, and this is it, people. Darby Kane is a rising name in domestic suspense, but I'm familiar with the author, who also writes romance under a different name. Her Pretty Little Wife is a bang-up domestic suspense with the title tagline, There's More Than One Way to End a Marriage. Well, alrighty then. Another romance author who is killing it with domestic suspense is Alyssa Cole, whose One of Us Knows and When No One Is Watching show her range at both scary urban settings with a gentrified neighborhood and also a remote estate. And to complete the trifecta of romance authors who are slaying it in domestic suspense is Serena Bowen with her 5-Year Lie. I think there's a decent crossover between these two genres because romance authors know how to write relationships, conflicts, and are usually pretty good at integrating the setting with the story. The title of Darby Kane's Pretty Little Wife reminded me of the stunning book by Samantha Downing, My Lovely Wife, which had me hearing things while I was reading it while staying in a hotel in Milwaukee for a writers' conference years back. And my favorite, and also my former Red Pit winner, is The Night of the Storm by Nishita Parekh, where an extended Indian American family gathers in a suburban house in Texas to wait out a hurricane, and then the murders start. So I've got a lot of great books in this list. If there's any that you haven't read, feel free to add them to your list. And as always, if you're interested in more tips on writing, editing, and the writing life, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to receive notifications for my weekly videos in this channel. And you can also check me out on my website, which is mirandadarrow.com. Happy writing!